Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodholt. It's probably one of my favorite stories in the Bible. Yesterday we left the story of Elijah with something of a cliffhanger. The king, Ahab, and his wife, Jezebel, were leading the people into worship of Baal, a Canaanite fertility god, instead of worship of God, and Elijah didn't like it one bit. So after a drought of 3 years, Elijah found the king and told him to gather the 450 prophets of Baal and all the people of the nation on Mount Carmel. It was time for a showdown and to find out which God was real. If you look at the coastline of Israel, you will see somewhat to the north a part that juts out into the Mediterranean Sea. That's Mount Carmel. And if there's any place in Israel that gets rain, that's the place. And that's where they gathered for this showdown after 3 years with no rain. When they all got there, all the priests of Baal are on one side, and Elijah stands alone on the other side, as the king and the people all watch. That's when Elijah proposes the challenge. You build an altar to Baal, and I'll build an altar to God. Then we each sacrifice a bull on the altar, but don't set fire to it. We will call on our God to send fire down to consume the sacrifice. That way we will see which God is real. So that was the plan. The priests of Baal built their altar and sacrificed their bull and began to pray. Nothing happened. They danced around the altar, and again nothing happened. About noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Cry out louder. Perhaps he has wandered away, or perhaps he is asleep and you need to wake him. So they cried even louder and cut themselves according to their tradition. It went on like that almost all day. And the Bible points out there was no voice, no answer, and no response. Finally, it was Elijah's turn. He built an altar to God and dug a trench around it and laid the wood on it, and then cut the bull in pieces and laid it on the altar. Then he told the people, "Fill 4 jars with water and pour it over the altar, on the wood and on the bull." They did it, and then he told them to do it a second time, and then a third, until there was so much water that it even filled the trench around the altar. Then Elijah came to the altar and prayed one small prayer, asking that God make himself known in the sight of all these people. Then the fire of the Lord fell down and consumed the burnt offering, the wood, the stones of the altar, the dust, and even licked up the water that was in the trench. The people said, "The Lord is indeed God." And Elijah told them to seize all of the prophets of Baal and not to let one escape. And Elijah killed all 450 there and then. Then Elijah told Ahab there was the sound of rushing water, and they went up on the mountain again and looked out over the sea, and out on the horizon a small cloud was rising up from the sea. Before long it was raining buckets. The Lord is indeed God. And perhaps we need that reminder too, as we let so many other things have too large a place in our lives and crowd God out. When I was in Israel, we visited the top of Mount Carmel. It happened to be a cloudy, blustery day with dark clouds and intermittent rain. As we drove down the mountain in the bus, I was looking out the window, and there was a flash of lightning. On this mountain, I saw the fire of God. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.